I want to thank you very much for tuning in today to our webinar, People Buy You, the real secret to what matters most in business. This is Todd Miller from Isaiah Industries. We are a manufacturer of metal roofing systems. Many of you who are on the call already know that and know us well, and we know you well and always want to know you better too. We sell our products through our divisions, which are Classic Metal Roofing Systems, Castle and Irons, and Green American Homes. This seminar today, we're very, very pleased to have our speaker today, the main speaker on the seminar being Jeb Blount. Jeb is the author of a couple of great books, one called People Buy You, another more recent book called People Follow You. For those of you who were able to attend our annual dealer meeting back the first week of March, called Sailing to Win, you'll remember Jeb very well. He was our keynote speaker. He did our keynote presentation as well as 2 breakout session seminars and was extremely well received. Everyone very much enjoyed listening to him, and so we were excited when he made this offer to us to be willing to lead the webinar today, which is going to some degree, for those of you who did attend the dealer meeting back in March, this is going to be a recap of a lot of the things that you learned and that you heard Jeb talk about in March. For those of you who are new and were not able to be at the dealer meeting, you will perhaps hear some new concepts here, but in any event, I think you're going to be greatly enjoy some of the things that Jeb's going to be talking about here today. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeb, and I'm going to ask him to do a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to ask Jeb to introduce himself and to say a little bit about the services and products that he offers to contractors and to other business people across the country, so you kind of know a little bit of his frame of reference, where he's coming from. And then he's going to introduce his concepts of People Buy You. And after he does that, I'm going to come back on the call and I will kind of bring around a little bit how we are seeing successful metal roofing contractors apply these concepts day in, day out to their businesses, and as a result, they're enjoying increased sales, increased profitability, and simply increased relationships with their customers, which does a lot of good things for their business, including brings them additional and increased referral business. After I kind of do that summary of how we're seeing people apply these principles, then we'll open up for questions, and anyone that has any questions or comments, we can talk through those, and in particular, would love to hear how you're incorporating some of these ideas into your business to connect better with consumers. So that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jeb Blount. Jeb, if you would, take it away, and tell us a little bit about, first tell us a little bit about yourself and your business and the services that you offer.
gravy.com. And Sales Gravy is the most visited sales website on the planet. Our core business at Sales Gravy is we help employers like you find salespeople. So either through online recruiting or through executive recruiting, but generally through helping small and medium-sized businesses get focused on and find great salespeople through online advertising on Sales Gravy. And we can, my team, myself, we can help you with that. We know a lot of companies are actually really hurting right now for salespeople, and a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, their growth is being held back because they can't find enough salespeople, and that's what we focus and specialize on. If you've got a few minutes, you can download a report that is available. It's a free report on some of the issues that people are facing in sales hiring right now, and that is at saleshiringtrends.com. It's a free report. It's a quantitative report on some of the trends, saleshiringtrends.com. Secondarily, that's one business. My other business is focused on helping companies like yours, Isaiah, all over the world. In fact, we spend a lot of time in Europe and the Middle East, and we've been doing a lot of training in Mexico, training salespeople, and we do that both in person. We do that via webinars. We write customized sales training programs for companies based on their industry and their needs. We provide leadership training, and we do this, again, either through webinars, through online work, or in person. And I'll just give you my contact information if you want to ask me about these things, if you want to talk about, especially with sales hiring, we'll get you in touch with one of our account executives. My email address is Jeb, that's J-E-B, Jeb, at salesgravy.com, Jeb at salesgravy.com. And my phone number is 706-986-9330, 706-986-9330. And with that said, let's get started with people by you. And basically, we're going to talk about 5 core levers for creating loyal customers, increasing your sales, and crushing your competition. And in today's competitive world, beating your competition is critical. Now, what I'm going to give you is sort of an overview of the theory behind this relationship selling process. And in some ways, it's how to sell without selling. And what Todd's going to do is dial you into reality, what it's like on the street, and how do you apply this specifically in the metal roofing industry. The first question we ask everyone in our People by You seminars is, what is your most powerful competitive edge? And the answer is simple. The answer is go look in the mirror. It's you. It's you as a business person. It's you as a salesperson. It's your employees. Because the reality is that people don't buy metal roofs. They don't buy products. They don't buy services. They don't buy prices. They don't buy cool websites or marketing or advertising or any of those things. Now, are those things important? And the answer is absolutely yes. Without a good inbound marketing program, without good advertising, without ways to get leads in, without going out and knocking on doors, things aren't going to happen for your business. But when all things are equal, that means that when your salesperson is standing in front of that homeowner and your competitor's salesperson is standing in front of that homeowner, and in these days, most of the time, the homeowner's looking at it and saying, this looks exactly the same to me. The reality is that people are going to buy you. They're going to buy the salesperson. They're going to buy that person first. And if you think about the way you buy things, it's very similar. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, well, no, I buy things with logic. I have rationale behind the reason I buy things. I go through all the facts. But if you're truly honest with yourself, and when we sit down with people and we ask these questions to them, people generally will come around to admitting what really happened is you typically buy on emotion. You buy the way you feel first, and then later down the road, hindsight's 20/20, you go back and justify that feeling with logic. Well, the reason that I bought this was because. So again, our focus today is to show you why that emotional side of selling is so important. It is so important for getting people to take action, and it is critically important for killing your competitors. But how do you apply that? It's an easy thing to say, but how do you do that? And let's talk about crushing your competition. A good friend of mine says this all the time, and she's it's like her mantra, is that so many salespeople spend their time flipping and flapping. And what do we mean by that? What we mean is that they're flipping the pages of some presentation book, an iPad or a web page or whatever, and they're flapping their lips. And when things go wrong, they show up and they apologize. The best salespeople have learned how to connect with the buyers on the emotional level, and they spend way more time connecting and they close more business, but they also build these incredible relationships that end up in referrals. And in any business that you're in, the referral is always the most powerful lead that you can get. And so one of the cool things that happens when you build these amazing relationships with your customers is not only did they go, do they do business with you, but they also go tell their friends. So how do you get there? Well, when we built the People by You paradigm and the People by You book, which has just been a runaway bestseller because people get this, we try to dial down this whole how do I connect with human beings in the sales process into 5 core levers that basically drive everything. The first lever is be likable. Likability is the gateway to everything. The reality is that if you're unlikable, people are not going to buy from you. Maybe, I guess, if there's a hurricane in South Florida and the guy you hate the most is the only person that has ice, you will go buy ice from that person. But for the most part, you're just not going to do business with people that you don't like. Now, being likable doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to buy from you either. I mean, there's a lot of people that are really likable. They've got great charisma, but they can't close anything. And in Texas, they call that big hat, no cows. So likability is critical, but likability, like I said, is a gateway. It's a gateway to connecting with people. Connecting simply means that people open up. They let their wall drop down just a little bit. And you've seen this happen. You know, if you've been in sales in the roofing industry, you've stood on somebody's front porch, you've knocked on their door, and you've seen that wall go up. It is right there in front of you. It is built with a big foundation. And it's that emotional connection, that moment that they begin to see you as a human being, not just as a salesperson, that the wall begins to come down. And as the wall begins to come down and you ask more questions, what happens is they begin talking to you. And as they talk to you, they begin telling your problems. They begin telling you stories, basically. And that's the kind of the cool thing about connecting, is that people don't necessarily communicate in bullet points. They communicate in a story. And the more they talk to you and the more that they feel emotionally connected to you, the more likely it is that they're going to tell you their problems. Not only that, they'll tell you what your competitor said and when they came over, and they'll tell you about their Aunt Jean, and they'll tell you about everybody else, but they'll begin to reveal the things that are important to them. And everybody's got problems. Everybody's got them. And the cool thing about problems is when you solve problems, people have a tendency to give you money. That's why we say that problem solvers are the champions of the business world. And as you solve those problems, as you begin to show them, I have the solution for you. And one of the things is, I mean, if you're in a storm zone, there's been a big storm that just came through. One of the problems is convenience, the ability to take care of all the insurance work for them, so they don't have to go through that hassle. But as you solve those problems, they begin to trust you a little bit more. And trust is everything. And you guys don't have very long sales cycles. You've a little bit of time to build trust. But trust is the foundation of all business and all sales. Without trust, there can be no business, there can be no sales, there are no relationships. You've got to build trust. And trust is built one brick at a time. It is realizing that it's the little things that you do consistently that makes the homeowner, makes the buyer begin to decide that you are someone that they want to do business with. And it's little things like having your paperwork in order. It's saying that, it's telling them the truth. It's being transparent. It is one of the stories I heard, in fact, when I was at the Isaiah Industries dealer meeting, was stories about when the competitor had come in and said all of this stuff and made all these promises, and you guys had sat down with them and just told them the truth about things, and they trusted you more from that. And then finally is creating positive emotional experiences. And creating positive emotional experiences is essentially creating an anchor. It's creating an anchor so that when you're gone, they're still thinking about you. And there are lots of ways to do that. Most of them are little, and most of them don't cost very much money. So be likable, connect, solve problems, build trust, and create positive emotional experiences. When you wrap all that together, that is essentially how you build relationships. So let's talk about be likable real quickly. So a couple of things. Manage brand you. What do you look like? What do you sound like? What happens when you walk up on someone's porch and you knock on a door? What is it like when someone comes to your booth at a home show or what have you? Managing brand you also means what people see on social media and on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on your website. That's a huge piece, by the way, of both being likable and building trust. If you are neat and clean and you look good and you talk good and your paperwork is put together, people are going to like you a lot more than if you are unorganized and you're not making eye contact, those kind of things. Smiling is massive. Smiling is the fastest, easiest way to be likable. And it's crazy how many people don't smile. I mean, all you got to do is just look around your business, look around in society. So many people don't smile. I'm reading a cool book right now called Subliminal, and it's a book about, basically it's a psychology book about human behavior. And I get teased a lot because I spent 9 pages in People by You talking about the smile. And I'm reading this book, and the guy spends, like, I don't know, 17 pages talking about the smile, because the smile is so much of who we are as human beings. It is a smile says that you're approachable. A smile says that you're friendly. A smile says that you're willing to listen. Being polite and respectful. You know, I get hired to help companies improve sales. So a lot of times I'll go out with salespeople, And I can't tell you how many times that I'll watch a salesperson walk across somebody's grass or walk through their shrubbery. Or one of the worst stories that I ever heard was my brother-in-law, who actually started started a rental business and built a brand new building and put new landscaping in, and actually called an insurance company so that he'd get some additional liability insurance. And he was sitting there looking at his brand new parking lot and his brand new shrubbery, and this nice dressed lady got out of her car, took a cigarette out of her mouth, threw it on the ground, crushed it out, and kicked it into the pine straw. And of course, he never did business with them. It was completely disrespectful. In the South, where I'm from, we call it a home training. Somebody taught you, your salespeople, how to be polite and respectful, how to say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, whatever the case may be, how to make great eye contact. But this is critical to being likable. Having a positive attitude, being upbeat, being focused, and that's tough. I mean, some of you guys send out sales forces and they're knocking on doors all day long. You get told no a bunch of times. You lose a couple of pieces of business, that brings you down. So it's important that you're always focusing on, how do I get my attitude up? How do I invest in myself? And that's through both taking good care of yourself. It's through feeding your mind with seminars like this, or good reading, or what have you. And it's focusing on your belief system so that you always have a positive outlook. I mean, if you think about it, who wants to hang around negative people? Nobody. And I know that most people in business aren't walking around just being negative. I mean, it's hard to be in sales very long if you're doing that. But there's always these little outward signs of doubt or what have you, and perhaps you're having a bad day, and you've got to close those things up, because being likable, again, is the gateway to a connection. And that obviously drives into confidence and managing your appearance. Focusing on the brand is so critical to being likable. Now, connecting is where likability becomes emotion. So when you're likable, people are more willing to listen to you. They're more willing to give you that, that 30-second opening for you to open the door up to get them to pay attention to you. And the key thing about connecting is not so much this whole concept of building rapport. I mean, it's not something that you do. It's listening. If you think about it, there's one thing that every human being wants more than anything else. We crave it. It is an insatiable desire, and that desire is to feel important. Homeowners want to feel important. They want to tell their story. They want to talk about things that are important to them. You want to talk about roofs. That's what's important to you. They want to talk about what's important to them. If you want to connect with someone emotionally, stop talking about what's important to you and listen to what's important to them. The more they talk, the more they'll feel connected to you. And the key thing is just ask questions and shut up. And this is really, really hard. I mean, it's simple. It's simple as anything in the world. And I challenge you, leave this seminar and go sit down with somebody and listen to them, and they will feel so much more emotionally connected with you. They'll be willing to talk to you about anything. But it's hard because we want to talk. We want to talk because when we're talking, it also makes us feel important. We also have that insatiable need. So the key thing about listening is being aware of your need to feel important and turning it off. That's why so many salespeople pitch instead of listen. Now, the key thing about connecting is what we call listening deeply. And listening deeply means listening with your eyes, your ears, and your heart. It is the ability to demonstrate empathy, to stand in someone else's shoes. And the key thing is, is always taking the time, eye contact, watching your body language. Everything that you do should be focused on your potential buyer. And as you do that, and one of the tricks that I have in doing this is when I'm listening to somebody, look them in the eyes. That keeps me focused on them. But as you do this and as you practice it, you will find that it gets so much easier to close business. And a great example of that is I had a client of mine, when they first called me, they called me up and they said, we kind of would like for you to come in, do some speaking for us and do some training for us. We don't know if we can afford you. How much do you cost? And I said, tell me about your event and tell me about what you want to do. And so the person tells me all about their event, and they're talking, and I'm listening. And about an hour later, Mike, who's my client, now said, he said, well, here's the budget we have. Would that work for you? Now, I never pitched. I never even talked about what I do. I never answered a question, I never did anything. All it did was tell me about your session. That's how powerful listening is. It made him feel so comfortable that I just took the time. So everything that you do has got to be about listening. Now, the more you listen, the more they'll talk. And the more they talk, the more likely they're going to tell you their problems. And again, problem solvers are the champions of the business world. Now, when they start telling you their problems, this is when you begin following your sales process. So sales process is simply, I've qualified them, they're a qualified buyer, I'm learning about what they need, their roof, what's important to them, everything that helps me close the business. And then I'm presenting a solution, which is basically building a bridge from what I have to offer to what's important to them. And then I'm asking for the business and I'm overcoming objections. That's the process. But the key thing about solving problems is once you've got that emotional connection, they begin to talk, you've got to begin asking questions. And I love do questions, concern questions, worry questions. A worry question would be, when you go to sleep at night, what worries you the most about your roof, or what worries you the most about your home, or what are you most concerned about? And as you ask those questions, and we call them go-to questions, and in the book People by You, there's a whole section around go-to questions. New salespeople have a really hard time with go-to questions. What they basically are doing all the time is they're thinking about their next question. But you've got to practice your questions like you would practice anything, like you were in a play. You've got to know exactly what you're going to ask and how you're going to ask it so that you can remain focused on the buyer. And when I first started in sales, I had a great sales manager, and he gave me like 4 pages of questions to ask. And I basically would sit down with my prospects and just go through that list and ask the questions. But I began to practice and practice and practice, and pretty soon what I was able to do is the questions just rolled off my tongue because I was experienced. If you've been in the roofing industry for a long time, this is probably normal for you. If you've got salespeople who have not been, they're typically spending their time thinking about what they're going to ask next. If they do that, they tell the prospect they're not listening. And remember, the one thing that prospects want more than anything in the world is to be listened to. And if your body language, the way you act, tells them that you're not listening, you begin to lose that emotional connection. So you're listening also deeply for clues. That means eyes, ears, heart. You're paying attention to their body language. You're paying attention to if they let's say that they wince when they mention something that happened or something they're concerned about. You want to ask questions about that. You want to focus on where their emotion is. And remember with them, I'm sure you guys all know this, it's just what's in it for me. You've always got to focus on what's in it for the prospect. And you've got to tie all your presentations back to that. You may know everything in the world about metal roofing or about the way to design a roof. You may know all those things. But if the what's in it for me doesn't match what you know, they're not going to buy from you. You've got to focus on what's important to them. The other thing is stay true to your values. One of the reasons that I love working with Isaiah Industries is because Todd and his team are true to their values. And I've listened to you guys, their dealers, talk about this. I've watched it in your eyes. I've watched it in your emotions. Your values are what keeps you together, and this is how you begin to build trust with folks. Your values are what makes you different than your competition. Don't lose your values just because you're trying to close a deal. Focus on solving problems. The trust. I mean, this values and trust all come together. The first piece of trust is demonstrating trust with a true commitment to excellence. That means doing it right all the time and doing it right even when you don't have to do it right. Those are the things that truly matter. And I call it going the extra mile. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with football. I'm from the South, so SEC is everything here. But Pat Dye used to be the head coach for Auburn, and I got to actually go see him speak once. And the guy was really cool. I mean, he gave the speech, and he talked about the first mile and the second mile. And he says, look, everybody's willing to go the first mile. You hire them, you give them a paycheck, they'll go the first mile. You put them on your football team, they'll go the first mile. He said the second mile is what really sets people apart. The second mile is what you do extra. It's what you do when people aren't looking. It is always focusing on being perfect. And I truly believe that in business, perfection is the winning edge, especially in a world that is ultra competitive as ours is. It means that your business cards don't have crinkles in them. It means that you don't have typos in your proposal. It means that you show up when you're going to say you're going to show up. And if you don't show up on time, you call them in advance and you tell them. It means that if there's a problem with the job, you tell them in advance there's a problem with the job so they're not finding it from you. I have a saying, in God we trust, everyone else we follow up on. So if I'm a salesperson and I've got, let's say I'm out meeting with people, there are other people in your business who've got to do work or got to connect with that client. I'm following up with those folks to make sure that all those people are doing their jobs, which is critical for me getting a referral to a neighbor or to a friend. And follow through is everything with trust. The one thing about trust is just think about this. I mean, imagine yourself, you're on stage. And you're maybe in a picture an auditorium at a high school or a college or a local community center where you've seen a play or you've seen people give a presentation. That's you up there, and all your clients are watching, and they can see every move you make. If you realize that you're on stage all the time, and your prospect is making judgments about you, about whether they trust you based on what they see, it begins to really come home. And the one thing about trust is this. Even in your passion for what you do, you sometimes forget about this, and it's easy to do. But your prospects and your customers are not looking for what you're going to do right. They're looking for what you're going to do wrong. And what you can't do is give them the opportunity to find that. And if you are always focused on being perfect and always trying to find a way to be excellent, you take away those excuses and you give them an opportunity to make the decision to buy from you. Finally, creating positive emotional experiences. Now, one of the cool things that in my business is we always say we give more than we have to. We always give more than we have to, and it's not something that we put in writing. It's not something that we go around, you know, and put in contracts. But all of our customers always know that we give more. We call, you know, you can call that under-promising and over-delivering, however you want to say that. But it's one of the cool ways to create positive emotional experiences by always giving. We call it giving value first. The one thing about positive emotional experiences is this. I mean, basically, what you're doing is creating a relationship anchor. Now, a relationship anchor is kind of like a boat. You've got a boat out in the ocean. You put the anchor down and it holds the boat in place. The problem with that is that there are winds, there's tides, there's waves, there's all kinds of things pushing against that boat. So you got to man that anchor. You've got clients out there who are either going to give you a referral, or you got a prospect who is thinking about doing business with you. It's easy to build those relationships. So when your competitor's knocking at the door, or when they're thinking about, you know, their a friend or what have you comes and asks them who do they use for their roof, they're thinking about you. Cool things is little things are big things. I mean, if you keep a great database on your client base, keep all their birthdays. I mean, send the birthday card out. Maybe they, you know, buy one roof from you in a lifetime, but they've got a bunch of people out there, a bunch of friends they can refer to. If you've got prospects out there, people that you're sort of building through, you might want to think about how can I do that. Some of it's just having humor, and your business is a tough business. And a lot of times you've got, you know, you got a few minutes to make a impact on a homeowner. It's giving them a nice compliment. It's a cool emotional experience is when you talk to both the husband and the wife as though they were equals. And a lot of times we have a tendency to focus only one or the other. It's having a good time in what you do. It's putting a big grin on your face. It's finding ways to be creative. It's always finding a way to make people feel emotionally connected to you. So the 5 levers of people by you, of building relationships, of essentially, and it's really cool, like the story I told you about the client who basically bought from me without me having to sell anything. It's how to sell without selling. It's be likable. Likability is the gateway to everything. Without likability, you simply cannot have business. You have a business you cannot sell. Likability as a gateway opens the door to building an emotional connection. And building an emotional connection with people is as simple as taking the time to actually listen to them. Because most people don't get listened to, and that's what they want more than anything in the whole wide world. But when you listen to them, and as they begin telling their story about what's important to them, they'll begin revealing clues, these problems, these opportunities you have in your business to present them with a solution. So what I call is building a bridge from your offering as a metal roofing contractor and dealer to their needs as a homeowner. And when you solve problems, they have a tendency to give you money. But if they don't trust you, and if you give them reasons to not trust you, they won't do business with you, and they won't give you referrals. So you've got to realize that you're always on stage. Everything that you're doing is being scrutinized. They're looking for what you're going to do wrong, not what you're going to do right, and you can't give them any excuses. But when you build that foundation of trust, one brick at a time, it makes it really easy for them to make that decision to buy from you. And then finally, creating positive emotional experience anchors them to you emotionally, so A, your competitor can't come along and take your business from you, and B, they'll give you referrals and they'll talk good about you in the community. And that's the key. Those are the key levers that people buy you. Now, what Todd's going to do is give you his version of people buy you that's a little deeper than this. He's going to talk about how do you apply these overall concepts to the roofing industry, and it's a fantastic presentation. What we'll do at the end is we'll open up the presentation for some questions. One thing is, if you're on a speakerphone or you're outside on a cell phone, if you'll just, when we open it up, if you'll put it on mute, that would be great. But there's also a place, if you don't want to ask a question live, you'll notice over on your sidebar, there's a place for you to ask questions. You can write a question in there, and then we'll take those questions at the end. So Todd, I'm going to move this slide forward, and we'll move into, hold a second real quickly here. So I messed these slides. Here we go. All right, there we go. So Todd, take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Jeb. One thing I wanted to say, several dealers, as a result of our dealer meeting and meeting Jeb back in March, have connected with him and are now using him to help them source top quality sales professionals. And so I want to encourage everybody, visit salesgravy.com, look what's going on there. Jeb has a great blog he keeps there where he keeps good information on good up-to-date sales techniques, and he also has a newsletter you can sign up for. But consider him if you're looking for salespeople for your organization. He's a great source of information there. One of the things I want to talk about real quick before I get started on my presentation, and Jeb touched on it, is how these sales techniques can help you increase and maximize the amount of referral business that you get. And that is huge. You know, back when I started in this industry, and I'm pretty long in the tooth of the whole thing now, I'm sorry to have to admit, but back when I started in this, a lot of our top leading edge dealers would tell me, they had marketing budgets of 3, 4, 5%, meaning that 3 or 4 or 5% of their sales dollars went to marketing. And back then, 20, 25 years ago, that just seemed like a huge amount of money, and that was kind of what we saw as being the hallmark of it took that kind of investment in marketing in order to have a real successful marketing-oriented retail division selling residential metal roofing. And, what we've seen over the years is we've seen that number creep up. A few years ago I started saying, typically I'm hearing dealers saying it's 7 to 8%. Then I started saying it was 10 to 12%. Now I'm actually seeing our top dealers are reporting that their marketing budgets are 13 to 15% of their total gross revenue. And, why is that number creeping up is a good question, I think. And I don't think it's because we're getting worse at selling. I certainly don't think it's because our products aren't as relevant or customers aren't looking for our products. I think the key is consumers have a lot of ways to tune out traditional advertising. People can DVR stuff. They don't have to look at commercials. My wife and I, and some of you have heard this story before, but my wife and I subscribe to our local newspaper, but the only reason we subscribe is so that I can look at it online. The reason I look at it online is I only have to look at the top third of the page, and I don't have to look at the advertisements. So there's all these ways that people have to tune out advertising. On the flip side, advertising rates, as any of us in the business know, keep going up. They maybe hit a little bit of a blip there during the recession, but generally speaking, advertising costs keep going up, response rates keep going down, and that's what is driving that marketing cost up. So if we can do things in our business and in our way of selling that maximize the number of referrals that we get, then that helps us to control that cost of marketing and that cost of advertising. And we all know that the best lead that any of us can hope for in our business is a referral business, is a referral lead, someone that has seen the product already, knows a little bit about our company, has heard good things about your company from their friends or neighbors. That is always the best lead that you can have. And the cool thing about relational selling is it allows you to connect with your customers in a way that maximizes the likelihood that they're going to refer their friends and family and neighbors and everyone else and coworkers to you. And so anything that we can do to connect in better ways and maximize the amount of referral business is just a good thing for your business. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to look at some of the ways that we have seen dealers apply principles like those that Jeb was talking about. I'm going to talk some of the ways that we've seen them apply these principles to their businesses. Today's buyers, and I think this is important to remember, today's buyers are educated and informed. They research extensively thanks to the internet. When they come to us or come to you, they already know a lot of information. They are also naturally very wary of salespeople because it doesn't take much to turn on a 60 minutes expose or to turn on the local news and see some story about some horribly unscrupulous contractor and what they have done to a homeowner. So they have this natural wariness of salespeople that they invite to their home to look at doing work for them. But at the end of the day, they still have needs that need to be met. So there are still folks out there just as much years ago as there are today that have needs to be met when it comes to remodeling and maintaining and taking care of their homes. At the same time, as they do this amount of research, they go out there and they find all kinds of products available to them. And they may even zero in very much on, hey, I want metal roofing, and then they start finding all kinds of metal roofing options that are available, from agricultural panels up to very exotic copper or zinc or titanium products. And they hear good things about all of those products because there isn't anybody selling any of those products saying this product isn't worth the money. Everyone has a good, compelling argument for why their story or why their product is a good investment. So they find lots of available products. They hear lots of good stories about all of them. It's hard for homeowners at the end of the day to distinguish, well, why is this product better than this product? Well, at the end of the day, I don't think they do make that decision based upon product. And you would think that us as a manufacturer, we should be the first one saying it's all about product, but it isn't. It's exactly like Jeb was saying. People buy you. They buy people. They do not buy a product. So relational selling goes beyond just selling a product. We believe that customers make decisions very early on. And as Jeb was saying, they make decisions very early on as far as who they might buy from, and more definitively, they make very quick decisions as to who they will not buy from. And if a homeowner makes that decision that, hey, this isn't someone I can do business with, that is a very, very difficult decision to ever reverse. That usually ends up pretty ingrained in their way of thinking. Relational selling is also needs-oriented selling. And at the end of the day, as you sell relationally, the impression that you make, that confidence that you build, that likability factor Jeb was talking about, that instills confidence in the prospect in your recommendation. Once they like you, they trust you, they are convinced that you know your stuff, they are convinced that you are committed to the industry and committed to what you do, then your recommendation to them, which is based upon the needs that you've learned from them that we're going to talk about, but your recommendation carries a lot of weight because of that confidence that you've managed to build in yourself. And it's kind of interesting. I was talking to a contractor the other day who is fairly old school. He's not currently selling residential metal roofing. He is fairly old school siding and windows sales. And one of the things that came up as I talked to him was it's very obvious that his whole organization is very much about forcing sales. Again, it's sort of this old school method of selling people and forcing them to a decision rather than leading them and creating a framework in which they naturally arrive at a decision that makes them comfortable. And the sales organization was saying, our business is really struggling. And, the problem is they're still selling with these old techniques of trying to force people into a decision, and consumers just aren't, they're just more savvy than that today. They are not reacting to that type of sales method. And as a result, this company was really struggling, looking for new ways to sell, looking for new products to sell potentially as well. So why is relational selling effective, though? I think people crave relationship. We crave that intimacy. We crave that desire to have someone, to know that someone believes in us, someone affirms us and someone likes us. And that's what people really crave. The cool thing is that there is no person with a script in India that is ever going to replace the truly relational salespeople. There's a great author out there, and he's a sociologist by the name of Dan Pink. And Dan Pink has studied extensively on why do people make purchasing decisions. And the thing that he keeps coming back to is that people make decisions based upon emotion and based upon that likability factor, not just based upon product. And one of the things that he says is that workers in culture today who are empathetic and interact well with others have a competitive and economic edge, not only today but in the coming decades, because he sees the salespeople who can connect with people and who can sell relationally as being completely unique out there, as being people who cannot be replaced by a robot or a computer or, like I said, by that person in India with a script. So you folks out there who are on the front edge who can sell relationally absolutely can command the marketplace. You've got something unique that is very special to benefit you and your business in the future. So let's start to look at how do we really apply these things. If we can back up one slide, I think we skipped one there, Jeb. Can we back up one? There we go. This is a key point that I think is really important. The game changes for you and the customer when you sell to benefit them and not to sell yourself. Jeb said it earlier. Problem solvers are the champions of the business world. And as soon as we start to change our way of thinking so that we are there in the home, not to get the next sale, not to get a commission, not to put food on our table for our family, but we are there to benefit the homeowner and not ourselves, the game changes. It changes for us mentally, and it also changes for the homeowner. They will either buy from the person who twisted their arm, or they're going to buy from the person who they fell in love with. And if there is a person who presents themselves that they fall in love with, that will be the person that they will buy from. And what's more, that's the person that they're going to give referrals to. They're not going to give referrals to the person who they felt forced them into a decision. So key point, the game changes for you and the customer when you start to sell to benefit them and not yourself. So how do we apply this to our business? Well, one of the first things that we all do, when we do our marketing, we get leads in. Maybe those leads hopefully are from referral, which as you have come to understand, I think is the best lead to have coming in and to really target our businesses so that we maximize the number of referral leads that we get. But that appointment setting is real key. And if there's up on your screen, you see some key things that you want your appointment setter to learn. Where did the prospect come from? Have them ask the prospect, what their pain is. Why are you calling us today? Why do you think you might need a new roof? Now, the salesperson, once they're in the home, they're going to ask those questions again for affirmation and also to make that pain more emotional to the consumer, make them repeat their pain. The more they talk about their pain, the more emotional it becomes for them. But make sure your appointment setter is finding out why they're thinking about a new roof. They should find out what their current roof situation is. One of the key things, and Jeb touched on this, is a smile. Your appointment setters should not just be the person who happens to answer the phone. It should be a professional within your organization that is trained to work on the phone and trained to gather information from consumers and to set appointments, and they should be trained to smile when they're talking, because just as that smile is so powerful face-to-face, we all know that you can hear a smile on the phone also, can't you? You can very much hear that smile, so your appointment setter should be grinning ear to ear because they are there to serve and they're there to help, and they're there to help that consumer come to a decision that meets their needs better than any other decision. So train your appointment setters to smile. Now, the next step of all this is the first impression. What happens when the salesperson actually comes to the home? And that's that first impression. If we can go ahead and advance to the next slide, that would be wonderful. In an instant, I think people decide whether they like you. And one of the things, there's a number of keys to making sure that in that first instant that you stand the best possible chance that they might like you. Certainly a timely arrival is important. Dress nicely, clean vehicle. don't appear too young. If you appear too young, then they're going to be worried that you don't have the experience to meet their needs properly. You also don't want to appear too old because you're selling a lifetime solution to them. They want to have confidence that you're going to be around if something doesn't go right and they need you in the future. Be authentic and genuine. Be a friend. Make a friend. One of the things I like to say is that we want to very much give the impression that we're there to invest ourselves in them, because that's really what we're doing. We're asking them ultimately to invest in us, but in return and really in front of that, we need to be willing to, as Jeb said, give value first and invest ourselves in them. Now, I had a call the other day, and this was very interesting, from a consumer who actually had contracted with one of our dealers to have a roof put on. It was pretty significant. It was around 70 squares. It was a nice deal. But the homeowner called me, and he said, you know, I'm signed up with one of your dealers, and when he came to visit me, nicest guy. I'm confident he knows what he's doing. He can take care of me. But I was really bothered by the truck he was driving. I'm really worried that I'm going to give this guy money, and he's going to take that money to go out and buy a new truck because he really needs one, rather than use that money to fulfill his contract with me. And, you know, of course, I had to talk him through and put him at ease, and ultimately they were put at ease, and everything's okay. But the important thing is that vehicle that you're driving doesn't have to be new and fancy and loaded out and brand new and all that, but it needs to be something that does instill confidence in the homeowner that, hey, this person is here to stay, and they're going to take care of me properly, and I don't have any concerns. In this particular case, the vehicle threw up some major red flags for them, and they called me to check those out. So think a lot about that in terms of what that first impression is as well. Now, we want to know how do we connect with people? How do we get to know them? As Jeb was saying, we do that by asking questions, and more important than asking questions, we're fully present when they respond. How many times, and I catch myself doing this all the time, and I'm embarrassed that I do it, but I will find myself in a conversation, and I'm hearing this person talk, but I will realize I'm not really listening to what they're saying. We've got to be willing to invest ourselves. We've got to be willing to be fully present in the conversation in order to really engage with the person and connect with them in a way that builds their confidence and builds their assurance that, hey, you know, this is someone I want to do business with. Unless they really like us, eventually the business relationship will disintegrate. So in that connection phase, you're listening to them. You're asking them questions. You're listening to them. You're connecting with them. You're making them, in the end of the day, feel good about you. How many times, let me ask this, have we gone away from meeting somebody and walked away thinking, I really like that person. They're really nice. That's someone I trust. That's someone I can relate to. And then when we're really reflective and introspective on that conversation we had with them, we realize that they really didn't talk much. They let us talk, and that made us feel good about them. And so that's what we're trying to do during this connecting stage. Next thing is one of the biggest in terms of selling roofing is needs analysis, find their pain. We do a lot of sales training here that is sometimes based upon the Sandler Sales Institute principles. And a big Sandler saying is don't spill your candy in the lobby. And so many salespeople do this. They want to go in and they want to just start talking about product and service because rightfully so, they're very proud of what they do. And they want to start talking about it and saying, hey, I got the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's going to meet your needs, and it's going to do all this stuff. The problem with that is we can't present a solution until we really have found out what their problems are first. So don't spill our candy in the lobby. Instead, ask them questions, find out what it is about their roof that concerns them. Start out by asking them, as Jeb talked about too, asking them simple questions that they enjoy answering. Give them your complete attention. Don't assume their answers. Make sure that they know that we care about their answers, but start with easy questions just to get them talking. And then we can start to talk more in-depth questions about their roofing needs. Some great questions on the next slide are things like, tell me why you called. What is the reason that you called me here today to talk about your roofing needs? We want to say, how do these concerns affect you? Then we want to make their pain emotional for them. So if they start to tell us, well, you know, I've got some streaking and staining up there. Okay, well, what's going to happen if we don't do something about that streaking and staining on your roof? And the homeowner is probably going to say something like, well, I have to imagine that that streaking and staining is, it's probably eating away at my shingles and causing them to disintegrate, isn't it? Well, yeah, it probably is, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. That's a good observation. Or they might say something like, well, you know, I'm seeing a lot of shingles curled up there, and I have to imagine if I don't do something about that, I'm probably going to have leaks. Now, ultimately, what we'd like to do is get that leak to be emotional enough that they start to think about that they've got all their family photos and heirlooms stored up in their attic, and if they have roof leaks, those things may get destroyed. So that's the level of emotion we want to drill down to with them to make them think about what happens if I don't solve this problem. And then we can start to say, okay, how do you plan to fix this? How do you plan to avoid these concerns in the future? And we can say things like, what would you like to accomplish with your new roof? Well, I'd like to have a roof that's beautiful. I'd like to have a roof that's energy efficient. Whatever it is, what it is, you know, we want to find out from them what they would like to accomplish with their new roof. Now, we've all run into homeowners who don't like to talk, and we start asking them these questions, and they clam up and they don't say anything. So what do you do when that happens? Well, when that happens, I suggest asking leading questions. So we may ask them questions like, you know, what would it mean to you if you had a roof that didn't streak and stain the way that your old roof has? What would it mean to you if you had a roof that didn't have the ability for shingles to crack and curl and valleys to rust out or disintegrate? Ask them leading questions if we must to find out their pain. Initially, just try to get them talking about it. But if we have to, we ask them leading questions, and then that leads them into talking about their pain. But the real key is, on the next slide, more than anything, we want to find their pain. And what do we find so often? No one likes to go to the dentist, probably no more than they like to have a contractor come in and re-roof their home. But the reality is people will even go to the dentist when their pain level is great enough. So as we find their pain, we want to make sure that they start to associate a dollar value with ending their pain. If we can build that up to where their pain is equivalent to where they'll spend $45,000 to get rid of their pain, and then we come in with a roofing proposal that's $37,500, that puts us in an awfully good position. So we're wanting to build it up to drive home what the emotion of what their pain is, and then what they're willing to pay to get rid of that pain. Find the pain they will pay to get rid of. If we solve their problem, they will buy our solution. Now, how do we deal with competition? That's a big thing, and one of the big things in sales the last few years has been a desire to not go real negative when we're dealing with the competition and not have to kill the competition by being real negative. So how do we do that in the home? Well, a good way to do that is to let them kill the competition. What I like to do is ask homeowners, what problems have you seen with these other types of roofs? So you start talking about what their various roofing options are. They're probably familiar with shingles in your area. They may be familiar with higher-end products like slate or tile or other types of metal. And just start to ask them, well, how have you seen those products perform? Have you seen any problems with those types of products? And in all likelihood, they will come back and express some pain and some problems they've seen with those other products. Now, there again, if they don't, if we find that they simply are not responding, then we ask leading questions. Well, have you ever seen asphalt shingles that streaked and stained real badly? In fact, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, as I came around the corner to your house, I saw the house in the corner, and it really has a lot of streaking and staining on the roof. Have you ever noticed that? And that's the way you can ask people leading questions to start talking, to get them to start talking about competing products and why they may not want to have those products on their home. And at the end of the day, that really is what we want to do when we deal with competing products, is we want them to eventually agree that, you know, I really don't want that product on my home because of the potential for problems and because of the problems I've already seen with that type of product. So, and that's how we deal with the competition. Now, the next thing that we want to do in terms of selling ourselves and really connecting with people is to sell them a little bit on our commitment and experience. And you do this by telling stories. I like an author by the name of Donald Miller. And if you go to YouTube and search Donald Miller and the Power of Story, he has some great videos out there just talking about how these stories weave into our life and how powerful these stories are when we share them with other people. And that's how we talk about ourselves. No one generally likes to go out and pat ourselves on the back and say, look what I've done, look at the great things I've done, look at how much I've done in my community. We don't like to do that, and that isn't something that's going to play well in the home, but what we can do is tell stories. One of my dealers has a great story because every year he donates a couple hundred teddy bears to the local police station so that they can carry them in their cruisers, and the instructions are, if you ever come across a child that is in a bad situation and that child is hurting or scared or confused or anxious, give them one of these teddy bears just to comfort them. And the teddy bears don't have the roofing company's names, sewed into the butt of the bear or anything like that. They simply give these things away so that they've got this story. I mean, they do it because they want to connect with children. They want to do the right thing and do something that's good for the community. But the way they use that in their business is they now have a story that they can tell consumers about how they do this, and it lets consumers know that, gee whiz, this is a company with real roots and real ties to my community. This is a company that cares about my community. And so we use those stories about our business and about ourselves to show our commitment, to show our experience to the community. Likewise, then when we talk about the company that we work for, we talk about its history, we talk about its mission and vision. I suggest that every company have some sort of a list of core values or code of ethics, something that you really ascribe to within your business that really boils down to exactly like, here's how we operate. Here are the banks of the river within which our company operates. And I suggest having that code of ethics or that core values typed up really neat on nice parchment-looking paper, presenting that to the homeowner and saying, look, here are the things that are absolutely integral to our company and that you can expect from your relationship with you. And what's more, I want to tell you, right there at the bottom of that page is my cell phone number. If you choose to do business with us, and if at any point in your relationship with us you feel like we are not living into these things, I want you to call me immediately so that we can make it right, because these are the things that our company is committed to doing day in, day out. And if we ever don't do these things, I want to know right away. And that list of things is things like keeping the yard clean, not having any surprises. Like Jeb said, people don't like surprises. Doing all these things that you do to connect with the homeowners and to make sure that they have a pleasurable, enjoyable experience with your company. Present those to them and say, hey, we ever don't do that, I want you to let me know. Again, using stories all the time to show what your company's all about. Testimonials, job pictures. One thing I suggest is we always recommend before you go out and visit an appointment, have a pretty good idea of what that home looks like. Have a pretty good idea of demographically, sociographically, what those homeowners are going to be like. You can pull the house up, of course, on Google Earth and look at it. You know the neighborhood. You have some pretty good idea of the type of people that live there. Well, if you use a picture book in your presentation, we highly suggest that you do, reorganize that picture book before you go into the home so that the pictures of jobs that look a lot like their house, the pictures of homeowners that look a lot like them, if you will, demographically, sociographically, make sure that you put those at the front of your book so that as they go through your picture book, they immediately start to see people that look like them. They immediately start to see houses that look like them. And that really helps a great deal in terms of building their confidence that, oh, these people work with people like, or this company works with people like me all the time. And that carries a great deal of weight with consumers. Next, I recommend really talk a lot about your team. Ultimately, when someone invites someone into their home to work on their home, that's a pretty big step. My wife and I have a contractor that we use for everything that we need done at our house. And honestly, he's a horribly slow contractor to work with. He's definitely one of the more expensive contractors in town, but we use him because we like him and we trust him, and he has the key to our house all the time. So if we have anything go wrong, all I have to do is call them and say, hey, Lee, can you go in and I trust his team and I trust the people that work for him. So a big part of your company presentation should include photos, stories, bios on every team member that homeowner might connect with, from that appointment setter they already talked to you yourself, to the owner of the business, to the job foreman, to the ground person on your crew. You want to share information about each one of those people so that they know exactly what they're getting into when they invite you to your home. Other contractors don't do this stuff. Again, people buy people, not products. So you want to show the heart, show the soul of your organization, and show the hearts of those people that work with the organization so that they develop a confidence level that your company is going to be someone they're going to enjoy working with. So a key point to all of this on the next slide is, roofing is not something people look forward to. At the end of the day, you want to help the prospect see themselves enjoying a relationship, not only with you, but with your entire company, and that will set you aside from all the competition. So we've talked about all these things about how you integrate people buy you principles within your business. And you know what we haven't even done yet? We haven't even talked about how you talk about product or how you do sell product. And why haven't we done that yet? Because people buy you. It's not the product that they buy. One of the things that I like to tell is that we collect information on our warranty cards asking people why they bought our product. And the number one reason they always mark off is they like the way the product looks. Now, we also give them an opportunity on there to say, hey, what were your feelings about the contractor who installed the roof for you? And we get great comments there about how much they like their contractor. But they say that they bought the product because they like the way it looks. Well, I can pretty much assure you that that homeowner, when he or she stands around the coffee pot at work talking to their coworkers, probably doesn't tell their coworkers that they paid $35,000 for a roof because it was pretty. You've got to have also what I call the water cooler logic, which are the things, the reasons they buy the product, which are things like durability, energy efficiency, fire safety, low weight, wind resistance, all those benefits. Those become the water cooler logic. So you do have to have those as part of your presentation. Of course, if someone engages us as their metal roofing manufacturer, we're more than happy to tell them how to make those sort of water cooler logic things part of your product presentation. But first and foremost, people act and they buy on emotion. And that's where connecting with them using people buy you principles will take you far in that in-home sales presentation. So that's what I have in terms of how we apply these principles to in-home sales of high-end residential metal roofing. Up on your screen right now, you see the front cover of Jeb's book, People Buy You. And if you do not already have this book, and of course, those of you who attended our dealer meeting got free copies of it for attending the meeting. But if you don't have this book, I really encourage you to go out and buy it. But I want to thank everyone for attending. If anyone wants more information on Jeb Blount, you can go to his website, salesgravy.com. If you want more information on our company, you can go to isaiahindustries.com, classicroof.com, or metalshingles.com to get more information on us and our product. I thank you very much for attending today. One of the things we love to do is to work with people to hone their sales skills, and so we will regularly bring this information to you, be happy to visit with you anytime, and your sales staff to help provide this sort of helpful information. Well, thank you so much, Jeb. It's been a pleasure to have you. We appreciate you greatly, and hope we can do this again sometime. But thank you, everybody, for attending as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody, and have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.